Boatworks today is sponsored by Total Boat and Alexial Yacht Coatings, as well as supported by the generosity from the beautiful folks over on Patreon. Thank you so much. So welcome back to the shop, everybody. I hope you are having a fantastic weekend. Now, the direction I was going to take for this week's video has changed a little bit, but I think when it's all said and done, it's going to end up actually being for the better. Now, I do a lot of consulting with folks on their own personal projects. I run all that through Patreon. If that's something you might be interested in finding out a little bit more about, I'll have links down below. But when I'm working with these folks, there's kind of a reoccurring concern that I hear like clockwork every single weekend. It's just like I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to screw something up. And the one thing that I always say is that, the beauty of composites is that there are very, very few things that you can do, screw up, make a mistake, however you want to call it. There are very few things that you can do that can't be easily fixed. Again, that is just the beauty of composites. And I try and kind of reinforce that, with the video this week. Now, kind of personally, what I'm diving in on is I'm taking a little bit of a risk on a part that took me roughly 2-ish weeks to make. And it was either going to fly or it was going to flop. And at the end of the day, whenever I'm kind of finding myself in a position like this, I ask myself two questions. One, what's the worst thing that can happen? Really, what's the worst thing that can happen? And the other one is, can I live with it and or can I fix it? Now, if the answer to that second question is yes, just dive right in and give it a shot. You really have nothing to lose other than maybe a little bit of a learning experience. But other than that, there's really not much you can do that can't easily be fixed. Now, with that said, let's just jump into the video. So I've been having some people ask me what the overall plan is for this area that I'm working on here. And I know that I've touched on it, but I think it's kind of been in like bits and pieces and, just kind of a little bit here, a little bit there. It hasn't really been, one brief explanation kind of all in one spot. So for the sake of getting everybody on the same page, here we go. All right, so this is the old engine bay. I guess, this was originally twin inboards, and I'm in the process of converting it to twin outboards with an Armstrong bracket. So when this is all said and done, this area back here, this is just strictly going to be storage. I'm sure I'm going to have a bunch of mechanical stuff back here, chargers, bilge pumps, whatever it may happen to be. Not quite sure yet, but anyways, I've got a lot of real estate right here. Now, as part of all that, anything that I put in here, I want to be able to keep dry as much as I can. Now, before I started putting in this kind of cross base along the back there, once the cover is in place, water is just going to literally be able to pour right through the back and down into this build, very, very, without any restriction. It's basically just going to be a waterfall. And I don't want that because, there's going to be probably some stuff that's going to be worth some value mounted along the bilge in here. So, hence this back brace. So what this back brace is going to do, that's going to create the support along that back edge for the lid that is eventually going to be set over top of this. Now, having that lid on top, I still need to manage drainage. And again, that's kind of where the design of this arch in the back. So the lid is going to be coming down around the outside of this raised lip all the way around to include in the back here. So the lid itself is going to kind of rest right into this back pocket right here. Now, once, if any water comes on here, water is going to drain into this trough. And then last week, I made sure this is arched well enough. Water is going to drain off on both the port as well as the starboard side. This, I'm not quite sure what to do yet. I don't know that I really need to do anything, but one thing I have noticed while I was grinding is that I've got some pretty wide open pockets on both the port and the starboard side. And ideally, this raised lip right here, this needs to extend back and meet into here so that this is going to be completely sealed off. Water isn't going to be flowing down from the deck and then pour in through here and then down. I want to be able to close this off. So here's what I'm thinking of doing. I've got some excess here that just honestly, it doesn't need to be there. So what I think I'm going to try doing, and this could go one of two ways, either very good or very bad. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this right here. I'm going to remove this section, trim it off, and basically epoxy it onto the end of this, a little bit of an extension, so that this will be completely blocked off on both the port and the starboard side. Now, I have said this several times in the past. Now, one of the beauties of working with composites is that it's almost impossible to do something or to screw something up to the point where you can't fix it. You know, kind of the old adage of, you know, how do you fix it? You grill it. You grill it. I'm hungry. I haven't been able to eat in 2.5 weeks. I'm not going to get on that one. You grind it, fill it, fair it, and finish it. So regardless, doesn't matter if it's a small piece or a big area, grind it, fill it, fair it, and finish it. Should I make that a t-shirt? Would anybody buy that? Anyways, let me know. But anyways, the point being, you know, I don't want to cut this and kind of put myself backwards too far, but at the end of the day, if I make a mistake or if it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. There's a way to salvage it. All right. So, all right, this is straight here. I'm happy with that. In through here across the top. This edge is higher than this edge, but it's almost flush with where it needs to meet up in here. So I think some fairing compound is just going to blend it from here, roughly somewhere in here, down to here so that it is actually flat and straight. But for the time being, I think right now, I'm ready to goop these little suckers into place. All right, now for bonding these pieces in place, I'm going to be using this. Now, I'm using this for a couple of reasons. One, because obviously small little pieces, stupid handy. Very convenient. You only pump out exactly what you need. Now, the last time I used this was when I was making the form for this piece that we're working on now. And that was a while back, you know, probably several weeks ago. And when I'm done using one of these things, I just leave the nozzle on here. It seals everything off and nothing dries out, nothing mixes. It's easy peasy. But when you need to reuse it, you just screw the old one off and screw the new one on. Then you gotta prime the nozzle. Now this stuff really surprised me. The first time I used it was when I was making this form, and I actually think, I don't know exactly what's going on chemistry-wise, but I think that this is actually stronger than if I were to come in and take some regular epoxy and mix in my silica. I don't know what kind of, voodoo they've got, bottled up in here, but this stuff works fantastic. It's going to be perfect for this. Now, for right now, I'm thinking I'm just going to kind of bond these little pieces in place. I'm not going to bother with filling any gaps, just because if I try and do too much, that little piece is going to be shifting around on me, and it's going to be frustrating as hell. So I think I'm just going to put a nice little bead along the bottom, set these in place, make sure everything is lined up the way that I want it, and I'm just going to walk away for a while. Now this is the fast cure. I think I should be able to come back and start playing around with this again, kind of filling in some gaps and whatnot. Probably within 30-40 minutes, I'm probably going to go have dinner and give it more closer to like an hour. But this is a fast turnaround. I think that's it. I'm starving. I want to get this down so I can go eat. Long story. Now I'm going to do a little bit of a different process getting this primed up and ready to go. Because I've already used this, the cartridges, there's two cartridges in here. There's a part A and a part B. Both halves of this have already been equalized. So normally what I would do is, without the nozzle, just kind of put it back in the gun, pump out a little bit of material until both halves are coming out equally, and then put the cap on and then charge the nozzle. But since both parts in here are already kind of at the same pressure or equalized, I don't need to do that, but I'm still going to pump out a little bit of material, maybe a couple inches of material here, just to make sure that everything within the nozzle is thoroughly mixed. All right, that should be more than enough. All right, let's go get everything sticky. I am going to pump a little bit on the inside of this curve here just because I won't be able to reach that. So I'll get some schmutz there, and then a nice bead along there, and then take up this little bit of a step down right here. That's fine. If I have excess that squeezes out, I'm okay with that, because after this cures, I can just shape that. It might be a little finicky, but it'll work. Keep that kicked in a little bit. Now, I am going to be glassing over this seam. I don't know that I actually need to because of this thick so, but it's like a belt and suspenders thing. I'm going to do it whether I need to or not, but I could probably get away with just basically letting this cure, shape it, do a little bit of fairing and move on, but that's just typically not how I roll. So I think this looks okay. I am going to come back and scrape all this excess up best I can without this thing shifting around me. But again, switch sides, time to do the other. Good. All right. You do your thing, and I'm gonna go do mine. All right, it has been a little bit. And, well, that's already set up, so we're in good shape there. Now, how did the rest of this actually behave? Let's see, I need a straight edge. All right, side to side. That all looks great. Now, in here, actually, that doesn't look all that bad. There's a little bit of a gap. Let me, longer straight edge. All right, so there's a little bit of build that I need to get along this edge right here. But all in all, it's fairly minor. I can certainly deal with that, but I will have to run the taper all the way back to here. Hopefully the camera's picking this up because I can't see what's going on. So, not a big deal. Easy fix. Now, how about the starboard side? All right, same deal there. It's straight enough. Now, how about lengthwise? Actually, this is a little bit better than the port side. Just a little bit of extra build there, and I don't have to run it back too far up on here. A little bit, but not much. So I kind of lucked out a little bit. I have not done any additional touch-ups with the Thixel. This is exactly the way that I left it when I put things down and checked out for the night. Now, I think what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do a little bit of shaping and got a little bit of prep work to try and get these lower areas, kind of where the two pieces meet, like the little extension and the existing well in here. I'm gonna do a little bit of prep to try and get everything ready for all the glass layup, so that I can, once I start mixing up material, I can just have at it, get everything built up, and then glassed in. All right, so I have a little bit of a decision to make here, and I think rarely do I go against my own better judgment, but I think my hands are kind of tied on this. Let me kind of show you what I'm looking at here. All right, coming in on the port side here. Now, typically across any of these joints, so one right here as well as right in here, typically I'd want to overlay this with some fiberglass just to kind of reinforce everything. It's kind of a belt and suspenders, I think, like I mentioned earlier in the video, just to make sure that nothing here opens up over time. However, I honestly don't know that that's going to be much of a possibility. The amount of space that I have to work in here, so from the bottom up to the top here, this is maybe a little over a ½ inch. Same thing in here, tight radius coming around, and then I've got a lot of kind of like funny business going on with the step downs from here and then down in through here. I honestly just don't think any glass that I lay up in here is going to behave. And what I absolutely don't want to do is to lay this material up, spend the time doing that, waste the materials, and most likely 99, if not 100% of it is all just going to end up getting sanded right back off anyways, because it's going to be such a jacked up kind of profile. So I'm going to take a little bit of a chance here, and I'm just going to do some basic shaping and kind of in some build. I am going to try and build up the low areas from kind of extending from, build this up and through here so that it's going to be roughly the same height all the way around, or from end to end. Overlap this as well as kind of reshape this in through here, round this over. Just basically kind of pretty it up a little bit. And I think there's a fighting chance that this is actually going to hold long term. If for whatever reason it doesn't, I can always come back and fix it. Kind of goes with the theme of this video. But for right now, I think that's the direction I'm going to go. I'm going to give it a little bit more thought, but now, while I do have some options as far as what material I want to use for kind of going over these seams and the little bit of a build, one option would be to use some Total Fair, right? Fairing compound. It's going to be easy sanding, easy shaping, easy to smooth over and make it look pretty. However, I think the better option is going to be to use something that's got a bit more body to it. So I'm going to mix up some epoxy. This is a 2-to-1. I'm going to mix up some epoxy and I'm going to thicken it pretty heavily with some silica. I might even mix in some milled fibers, but I think I'm just going to stick with the silica. My experience in the past has been that whenever I've tried to cheat it,
it's worked. Maybe I just got lucky. I'm not quite sure, but that's I think that's what I'm gonna run with. Now I don't need a whole lot of material, so I'm only gonna do maybe 3 pumps. I'm gonna start with 2 pumps on here, thicken it up. Because when you add the silica, you get a lot more volume out of the material, and we'll just kind of see what I've got to work with. But like I said, I don't need much. So one little tip I'm going to share here is whenever you're trying to mix in silica, a lot of times this can get a little tricky because the silica is so light and fluffy. Whenever you go to stir it, it seems like all you're doing is just pushing it around. When you're looking to add silica into whether it's polyester or even epoxy, this has still got me baffled. I hope my roof isn't leaking. I don't think so. But anyways, it's better to add a little bit at a time because a little bit is a lot easier to work in than a lot. If I put in a bunch of silica here, I'm going to be pushing this around till snow, till the snow starts to fly this fall. So by doing just a little bit at a time, incorporate it in, I can always add more. It's just, it makes the incorporating the silica into the epoxy a bit less time consuming. So let me get this mixed in, and then I gotta hurry because, well, the clock is now ticking. And then once, I've got a nice mass of epoxy here, that's gonna wanna start setting up and curing pretty quick. So I need to get this up on the boat and spread down in some thinner layers so that I can buy myself some longer working time. So I've already gone through and I've wiped everything down. I ended up using acetone instead of my normal surface cleaner because I needed something that was going to evaporate instantly. So when I'm spraying this epoxy on here, I'm going to be pretty heavy-handed with this because I can always sand this to shape, and the chances of being able to actually spread this material into the perfect profile that I'm looking for is like slim to none. So knowing that I'm going to have some sanding to do, I'm just going to embrace that and do my best. Probably going to have to do this in a couple different applications here, but I'm going to do the best I can. It's a little bit of a hot mess, and there's going to be some pretty serious fish hooks first thing tomorrow morning after this is cured. But I can, again, the whole point here, it doesn't have to look good right now. It just needs to be somewhat shaped to save me on some planned sanding tomorrow. And I think I'm there. The more I screw around with it, the more I risk setting myself backwards. So, onto the starboard side. All right, now I may regret trying this in the morning, but for right now, oh, come on. Get rid of the meat hooks. Yeah, there's no way around it. I'm gonna have to do another application, but that is not gonna happen tonight. I need to go start making dinner for my girls. I'll see you in the morning. All right, well, let's see how this turned out here. Now, hopefully I don't have too many touch-ups to do, but there's only one way to find out, right? All right, pick a side, any side. Let's go to port. Well, all right, well, that's one good thing. The epoxy setup. Now, I am expecting it still to be slightly low, but I won't really know until I get some of this knocked down here, because I know that, well, there's some meat hooks on here that's going to be holding up this straight edge. But as it looks right here, I mean, it actually looks worse than before I did the filter, but I know a lot of that's going to get taken up when I start knocking everything down. And let's look at the starboard side, and again, same kind of deal there, just visually looking at it, I can see that it's slightly low. Let me take a longboard to this and get a better idea as far as how it's really going to look, right? Right. All right. overall, all right, we look good for this first couple of inches here. Then it starts to kind of drop off a little bit. So I'm going to say I need to add some more filler from right about here back to about here. So that, what, I don't know, 5-6 inches, give or take. Not too bad. How about the other side? All right, now this side, for whatever reason, I'm not quite sure exactly why, because they should be pretty much symmetrical. But this side needs a little bit more love. Same kind of deal. The first couple inches in through here look to be nice. Good contact right there. But I am going to start some additional filler from here. Now this side, I got to take pretty much all the way back to here. I don't know, about, I don't know, 16, 18 inches, give or take. Now, although I've gone through and I've knocked down and sanded, I'm going to say roughly half of the square area, surface area, give or take. There's still some areas that never got touched when I was running the longboards here. So before I can start mixing up and laying on some additional material, I need to at least thoroughly scuff all of the areas where this new, I don't know if I'm gonna use fairing compound or if I'm gonna use the same mixture that I used yesterday. But before I lay on any additional material, any place that's still shiny, or more specifically, any place that has not already been sanded, needs to get scuffed and then cleaned, and then it's going to be ready to go. The starboard side, piece of cake. Now this port side, I've got, I'm gonna remove a bit more material. Now, kind of generally speaking, it's not necessarily a good idea to try and apply any type of compound, whether it's, you know, fairing compound or a structural compound. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's generally not a good idea to apply that over top of like a painted surface. If you can even get down to the primer, that's better. Ideally, it'd be nice to get down to the gel coat and or the actual bare fiberglass. So I've got a bit more sanding to do on this port side, just to run that back, that 16, 18 inches. And then I'm gonna give that a clean. And then while I'm doing that, I'm gonna figure out if I want to use fairing or some more of like a stout structural type putty like I did yesterday. But I got a little bit of time while I'm working here to kind of sort that one out. So I may just spare you the sanding because there's been an awful lot of it. So I think I decided I'm gonna go ahead and mix up some more epoxy, and I'm gonna thicken it with the silica. While I could use fairing compound on here, my general rule with that material has always been, you know, it 100% has its place. Absolutely, there's absolutely zero question about that one. However, it should be kept to a minimum. You know, so anytime you're looking at a step of the project that's going to require a little bit of a build rather than just a skim coat to kind of smooth things over, whenever you have to get some build, you're much better off going off with either adding some additional glass or using a thick material that's going to have a bit more structure to it. So I think that's the route I'm going to go. Now, you've already seen me do this once. I'm probably going to have to repeat this process 2, maybe even 3 more times. And honestly, I don't think, you know, recording and including that in this video is going to add any value whatsoever. So I think I'm going to take care of that off camera. And then when we come back next week, that'll be done, and then we'll be able to switch gears and then start focusing on making the actual cover that's going to go over that entire locker area. So that'll be cool. Then I won't have to worry about having a big ass hole to fall into every time I'm getting in and out of the boat. So small steps is always going to be nice. So then on that note, I think I'm going to go ahead and button this video up here. So as always, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found this helpful. And if you did, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Thank you in advance. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to leave those down below. I will do my best to follow up with you. And as always, I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend, and I'll see you next week.
This has been a Boatworks Today Protection.